You know, if you're caring for an older adult, the thought of a fall is probably always in the back of your mind. But what if you could spot the trouble signs long before it happens? Well, that's what we're going to get into. Using some great material from DailyCaring.com, we're going to turn that worry into some real watchful awareness.
So let's start with a really important question, one that a lot of caregivers grapple with. We tend to think that a big, serious fall is the first major red flag, right? The moment everyone realizes, okay, we have a problem. But is it really the first sign?
And the good news is, it's usually not. Most of the time, the biggest mobility issues, they give off these little clues, these subtle warnings, way in advance. The trick is just knowing what to look for, and that's exactly what we're going to break down today.
Okay, before we jump into the signs, let's just take a second to talk about what's really at stake here. Because this isn't just about preventing a broken bone. It's about protecting something so much more valuable. A person's confidence, their freedom, and that independence they cherish.
All right, let's get into our first sign, and it's the most obvious one: frequent falls. Now, this one definitely gets everyone's attention, and for very good reason. But what does frequent actually mean in this context?
Well, what's really interesting here is how health professionals define it. It's probably a lower number than you think. It doesn't mean your loved one has to be falling down all the time.
The actual definition is just 2 or more falls in a single year. And here's the really crucial part. That's true even if they didn't get hurt. A couple of seemingly minor stumbles or trips, that can be enough to signal a bigger underlying issue with their balance or mobility that really needs a closer look.
So why do these falls happen? I mean, sure, sometimes it's just tripping over a rug. But you want to pay close attention to things like their feet dragging, or if they have a sudden loss of balance, that inability to quickly correct their body position. That points directly to things like declining muscle strength or slower reaction times.
Okay, on to our second warning sign. And this one isn't about something they do, it's about something they stop doing. It's a change in behavior you might notice around the house or when you're out. They start actively avoiding stairs. So think about it. If you suddenly notice they're always looking for the elevator, or maybe they've started spending all their time on just one floor of their house, that's a huge clue that something has shifted.
And this really gets to the two sides of the issue. On one hand, yeah, it could be a purely physical thing. Stairs just take a lot of strength and balance, and that might be fading. But on the other hand, it can be totally psychological. A growing fear of falling can be just as paralyzing as a physical problem, creating a real barrier for them.
All right, our third warning sign. This one is hidden in one of the most basic things we do every single day without a second thought: just sitting down and standing back up.
And this is a big one. I mean, if this becomes a struggle, it affects everything, from getting out of a chair for dinner, to using the bathroom, to just getting out of bed in the morning. So what are you looking for here? Keep an eye out for any unsteadiness. Do they have to push off with their hands? Do they reach for a table or a nearby chair to pull themselves up or to lower themselves down? There's actually a really simple exercise you can try together to see this in action. So, try this with them. Have them sit right on the edge of a solid chair, one without arms, and then cross their arms over their chest. Then, just ask them to stand up straight and sit back down. The whole time, you're just observing. Is it a smooth, easy motion, or is it a struggle? Any slowness, any wobbling, or that instinct to throw their hands out for support? That's a sign worth paying attention to. Okay, let's talk about the last two signs. These are a little more subtle, a little sneakier, and they can be really easy to miss in the hustle and bustle of everyday life. So our fourth sign is all about balance. And this one's tricky because feeling dizzy or unsteady, well, it can be caused by a whole bunch of different things. And wow, as you can see, the list of potential culprits is pretty long. It could be anything from a side effect of their medication, to low blood pressure, to inner ear problems, or even just their vision getting worse. This is exactly why, if you start hearing more complaints about dizziness or balance, a trip to the doctor is so important to figure out what's really going on. And that brings us to our fifth and final sign. This is a change in habits that can kick off a really dangerous cycle when it comes to mobility. If your loved ones start skipping their daily walk or other activities they used to enjoy, it is so important to figure out why. If it's because they feel weak or tired or sore, they're walking into a trap. See, less activity leads to faster muscle loss, and that just makes any activity, even walking, that much harder. It's a vicious cycle.
Okay, so you've been watching and you've noticed some of these signs. Now what? Well, this is where you get to shift from being a watcher to being an advocate. This is where you become their best defense against a serious fall.
Here are 3 clear, proactive things you can do right now. First, just talk to them. Start a gentle, compassionate conversation and let them know you're concerned because you care. Second, call the doctor. A professional checkup can help get to the bottom of what's causing the issue. And third, take a look around their home. Simple things like adding grab bars or just clearing away clutter can make a huge, life-saving difference immediately.
And at the end of the day, this is why it all matters so much. It's like the slide says, this is about so much more than avoiding an injury. It's about protecting their confidence, your watchfulness, and your willingness to act. Those are the most powerful tools you have to help your loved one keep living a full, independent life. We really hope this was helpful. This explainer was based on some fantastic info from DailyCaring.com. If you found it valuable, please hit that like button and maybe even subscribe to the Caregiver channel for more. Thanks so much for joining us.